evening. You're listening live to the Two Extreme Horror Show, broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Rob, and over on the SAT feed from the dangerous Midwest is none other than the real Dr. V himself. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing great, and now I understand the love that you have for the Frankenstein Chronicles Season 1, which we're going to be talking about overall, not just the first episode, which we covered recently, from one doctor to another. Man, what a fantastic show. Holy crap. I was not expecting it to be this good. Um, I was blown
I
away.
only and I only discovered it by chance browsing through Netflix. I was looking through Sean Bean stuff, and I came across. I'm like, wait, I've never seen this Sean. I'm like, there's like Mary Shelley. I'm like, why do I know that name? Oh, it's Frankenstein. You
Right.
know. So, it's a different twist on the whole Frankenstein tale, which I love.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we mentioned when we just talked about the first episode, we were trying to keep it for the most part spoiler free for those who haven't seen it, was that Sean Bean's in it. So my whole question, like anybody else, is, well, when does he die? And because it's Sean Bean and the joke is he dies and everything. But we also talked about how he has kind of he's got a very soothing voice to me. He's very watchable, and we just talked about how it seems like Britain in general they have the stranglehold over period pieces, if you will, because they've got such a long, rich history that they can draw upon. They have towns that they can film it in that look like it's perfect for it, as well as the clothing and everything else too. And that's one of the strengths of the show. I wanted to bring up here, Doctor. First and foremost, is it's a gorgeous, beautiful looking show. And now it was filmed in Northern Ireland, from what I understand, which that may upset maybe some of the true bloods across the pond, but not to me while watching it. But I felt that when you're watching the show, by looking at it, they use nothing but natural light and candles and all that. And there's just something about the way that comes across when you film it, even if it's digital, that looks like nothing else. Certainly not like the CGI craft fests, which dominate the big screen primarily today. But in terms of the overall look about it, is that something you care about, Doctor, or what?
Not really. I mean, as far as like people say, like, "Whoa, that's not authentic." They're filming this. I'm like, well, dude, half the crap you see in CW shows are all filmed in Vancouver, even though they say, "Oh, this is filmed somewhere else." We're in Wisconsin, or we're in New York, or a little suburb. I'm like, dude, that's Vancouver. That's Vancouver. That's Vancouver, because they get a discount on it.
Yes.
And then I don't care where it's filmed, as long as it's believable. And to me, the set looked believable. It could be anywhere.
Yeah,
It
and I
was
tell you, that it's like that Asian show that's got that female comic in it, where it's supposed to be set here in Orlando, where we have a very multicultural community, very diverse, especially in downtown, just north of the downtown area of Orlando, is where you have the VME district. And of course, when you're watching the show and they talk about Orlando and they're driving around, you see mountains in the background. It's like, no, I know you're filmed in Century City or wherever you're at in California. It's just absolutely ridiculous, but not in the Frankenstein Chronicles. You have wherever they filmed it, it just looks fantastic. And here's the thing, obviously it's not 100% about the Frankenstein story. And the beautiful thing that, like we talked about when earlier this year we reviewed The Invisible Man, and we talked about the Blumhouse method of really pumping out horror movies with very small budgets that look very good with people that want to put their own spin to it. I think that's a rarity for American releases, but you look over at something like the Frankenstein Chronicles and you see where there's so many different ways that they can do Frankenstein or Dracula or the Wolfman or something on English moors or ghosts or gothic stuff or the Moors or wars or this or that. It's incredible. I mean, it's a really strong suit. But moving on from that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the characters that are not Sean Bean, because we'll talk about him last. I have to admit that his partner, the black guy, didn't really care for him because he seemed like he was just there. And I don't know if Britain has more or less of like a woke quotient than American films and TV studios have. That being said, what bothered me about the guys, he just seemed like he was incompetent, not because he's black. And we talked
he,
about how there was a good exchange
in,
with them about his background
well,
and how he got to his position and everything. So it seemed like it was going to be like a good buddy cop sort of thing.
the actor's name is Richard Campbell. He played Nightingale. That was his name in the series.
Do you
And
know the meaning behind the word nightingale as a bird?
they sing at night. I don't know.
Someone who sings. It's like in Nick Nightingale in the Tom Cruise movie that everybody hates that I really like, Eyes Wide Shut. Nightingale is somebody that sings, somebody that says something they shouldn't, almost kind of like a narc.
Yes,
And I
so
thought that was interesting.
Nightingale, yes, his character was a little irritable in this. Obviously he doesn't know what's going on, and he thinks his more concern is he just wants to get some tail from the girl, little 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, he does. I tell you what, he's got his eyes on that, and I think she was actually in a really, as a character, I thought she was very good because you could really sense the stress on her and everything that happened. But she also had a womanly way about her. And when you're 12, 13, 14, getting married off at that time in the 1820s, 1830s, it seems realistic. And of course, we talked about how in Britain they place a lot of emphasis on classes in class, not necessarily warfare, but where you fit in and what's available. And that's what was beautiful about here. You'd get a shot of Nightingale, who's middle class at best, talking with the elite political people, just like Sean Bean's character. Sean Bean, you knew, was in the war, but he had to find some work to do. That's why he's a river cop, if you will. But then, of course, most of the entire episodes take place with the poor people. So you've got your three distinct areas that all this stuff is going around. But each of them have their own horrificness about it, and that's what makes the show good. Is that it doesn't just dally in one specific place for the entire episode. It's after about that second, third episode, it's like it really starts cranking. All these little things start fitting together, and it starts getting some momentum. And the whole thing with Nightingale, um, he seemed incompetent because he lost, the a couple fights here and there. Couldn't seem to follow through on anything Sean Bean told him. But like you said, he gets an eye for the girl, and then we see these two really kind of seem like it's their back against the wall versus everybody. And that's one thing about the show, watching it, that a lot of shows I don't think do well. There's this sense of dread that's happening through it. They're looking for a monster, there's all sorts of stuff, um, but it really doesn't hit you until the very last episode, which we're going to hold off on. But I actually like some of the other characters too, because you get the sense of, from Mary Shelley, how she is, and then the guy who ends up being the bad doctor, his fiance, she was
Lord, yeah,
fantastic, absolutely
Lord,
incredible.
Lord Daniel Harvey in this, like the actor, I believe it's played by what's his name is crap. Uh, no, it's I just had it up here. I had to stop her. Anyway, his character in here, he's the scientist, the one that Sean Bean's his character suspects that this guy is practicing galvanization, which is illegal practice. The galvanization is based upon is described in Mary Shelley's book Frankenstein about Frankenstein wanted to use galvanization, basically lightning, electricity current, so you can stimulate the body, bring it back to life.
Yeah.
And as you throughout the series, like in the very first season here, you he Sean Bean learns basically how the body that with in the very first episode they find that body on the shore that was made from different parts.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, and the disturbing fact is like, well, this guy figured out how to bring a corpse back to life, even for a short period, where it must have ran into the water and went all the way down the riverbed and then washed up in the shore there because it was fleeing from something.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and he counts the tides, and that's another thing too. Is always say professionalism, or at least a hard work ethic, is I think very important to show when you have detective things. Not people are just smart and get it right all the time, but you can see where he kind of makes some mistakes. Where Nightingale obviously does, tailing suspects and whatnot, but he goes out and he checks the tide charts and he kind of walks things out and he's looking at it, and it's not like he's super smart. We can't relate like Sherlock Holmes, who might have some big flaws. This is a guy that's just he's got a lot of sorrow to him, a lot of grief. He's got a heavy weight on his shoulders that you feel, and that's one of the geniuses about it. Is he's not a pansy ass. He's got a job to do. He's very stricken about it, and the way other people talk to him, you get a sense of just how strong of a character he is, and you get this feeling it really is him against everybody, and that you don't know who everybody is because in this show, they show just enough of everything. And when you mention the galvanism experiment, where everyone kind of freaks out and they think it's incredible, it's just shooting electricity through somebody and watching it twitch. But at the time, that was cutting edge. You had Volta back in I think the 1700s working on Leyden jars and whatnot, and then you had this galvanic thing, and then you had the whole side politic thing of people digging up bodies because it wasn't legal, and can you actually practice what they would consider real medicine versus not. And he's taken mercury, which gives him these dreams, but we know that currently that's extremely poisonous. And then the doctor who would be bad gives him the natural cure. I mean, there's a lot of little things that you're just going, well,
Yeah,
okay, what's the point? What's
yeah.
the point? But they all build up to this magnificent ending.
You brought up the Daniel Harvey's wife, Lady Gemina Harvey, who's played by Vanessa Kirby,
Yes,
who was
yes.
recently in Mission Impossible Fallout. She was the other assassin, was in there at the
Oh,
club.
yes, 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 yes,
Yes,
yes, yes. Oh, she was outstanding in this. Yes,
yeah, yes. No, so
she's got the
yeah,
hots for Sean.
she does, but she can't. But they can't really show it because she's engaged to patrol somebody else. So and him being a cop and stuff, and as it is, politicians, the lords, they're all fighting over the whole thing as far as uh, politics. I forget exactly what they're fighting. I think they're fighting over galvanization, or just there's some kind of vote. I know that, and they wanted Sean Bean to discuss solve this murder like quietly, you
And
know,
quickly.
quickly, because well, it looked bad on this. You get the especially and then he kissed her. She's the way how they towards the end of this, how like Daniel Harvey makes him look like a mad Sean Bean's character look like a madman, and then the guy he's actually Mr. Tom Lord, I believe is the guy, or no, Server Appeal. That's played by Tom Ward. That's who Sean Bean's working, Mr. John Marlett is, and that guy kind of believes, but then they convince him that he's a crazy madman, he's violent. And look, he just killed that girl over there, and he's the one that basically taking basically all the children in the town. So it's this is one of the shows that I said I'm glad I stumbled upon, dude. Like you told me you started binge watching it.
Yeah, and I don't
Like you
binge
normally don't do
watch
that.
at all. I
No,
never do.
no. Um, each of these episodes are what, like 40 minutes long, I think, or 30 minutes. I can't remember how long they
No,
were.
it's like 50 to minutes to an hour, let's say.
But
Not
I,
even with
I
advertisement.
I would watch, like when I first started watching this, I was watching this maybe like 3 or 4 episodes, and then I realized like, dude, I got to do other stuff. I got to do kicking it. I got to do another stream with Ingleton. It's like I can't just get sucked into this. It's,
Well, there's this act that's getting ready to pass, and that's kind of like the political backdrop, and that gives the push for why the guy has such a hard on for Sean Bean to get this solved, and of course tell him and him only. And so you see where Sean Bean's kind of getting pulled in a bunch of different directions because he's got his duty. He has no reason to suspect the main guy, and he goes through suspecting some women, some men, and different things. Of course, he at the end. This is what's brilliant about the ending. Turns out the last episode, I believe it is, that the girl's with him. She comes back because she went away for a little bit, and she ended up having an abortion, and she feels safe with him, but you don't get any weird, creepy sex vibes or whatever. She wants to take care of him, run the house or whatever like that. But like you said, Nightingale's sweet on him, or on her. So it turns out after a little while they kind of are in the same boat, and it makes sense. And he wants to provide for her, and you're starting to see Nightingale actually grow into his role of being a partner. And that was one of the strong things about it. Because at first I thought, this guy looks kind of incompetent. I don't like that in terms of the writing because if it's there to make Sean look good or something, it's kind of stupid. I don't like it. And I hate that with somebody. But no, he more than proved his worth to it. And then they do the honorable thing, and there's a couple minute conversation there where they're in his house, and he's basically saying, hey, even though you're watching out for her, you're not really her father. I'd still like to ask your permission for her hand in marriage. They do it the proper way, and he's like, well, when this is done, yes. And then it's like there's almost like they're a family, a very good family, and very close, and you get the sense of warmth about it because you're like, hey, they've gone through a lot together. They really do rely on each other. They don't take anybody else for granted in this group, and it's these three against everybody else, no matter what happens when they walk out that door. Then, to your point, this is what makes the ending so awesome. He comes back to his home, finds her with her throat slit.
Flora
Yeah,
characters. Yeah.
in the kitchen. He stumbles upon her, and he picks up the saber or whatever that looks like the murder weapon. Then
Yeah,
Nightingale comes in, sees it, and loses it. So it's not just that he is set up for this. His boss it basically says, "Hey, you've got syphilis," and you think the boss is guilty and in on it because he's all political. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about the poor
exactly.
girl.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and so you at this point you're like, you haven't really seen the Frankenstein monster. You've seen the backstory of the people that were involved in the scientific ability for this to happen, and that's pretty awesome. But you're still kind of going, okay, it's got to hit. And what happens is he basically says, okay, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go in front of the judge, but because of this and this and this, you're going to be committed, and that's it. And almost for a split second, you go, God, the guy who's acting like this, he's not a one note jerk in his role. By this point, you're like, man, this guy's really good. He really does have the political part to it. And you almost see that he almost respects Sean Bean, but you're not sure. And so all these people could seem like they're possibly the person that's involved in this, and they all seem like they know more than they do. But after he gets sentenced and he goes in there, the big thing happens. So, what do you want to say before we talk about that?
Uh, just gonna say, man, like this, like when Sean Bean and Nightingale go into the bar, they're looking for like trying to find Billy, the guy who's been taking all the kids, running them up and making work for him.
Yep.
The bar and they're like the seedy little bar because they're going, and it's just like it's authentic, man. It's just like expect guys. They like half the guys are so poor they don't bathe, or they just sit there, they gamble, they drink, and then they got the wenches in there too. I was like, I love this time period, man. It's like no different watching Pirates of the Caribbean, but like without the camp.
Yeah, and here's the thing. A lot of shows, you have your three acts. You know what's going on. There's this big build up, and the resolution's usually a gunfight and violence and everything else there too. This is what can make like a thriller or horror thing even better when you actually go away from the violence, because basically he's found guilty and there's no weird things going on. He is set up to be made to look like a madman. So Nightingale's completely turned on him. Everybody else is. Everybody's shocked at what's going on. Boz, who we would know as Charles Dickens, kind of you think almost likes him, but is still interested in the story. But you see him being kind of torn, and so you actually watch him and the other people that were involved in getting bodies and they're all going to hang at the same time. And so you're like, wow, that's really ironic. He's going up, and some of the people that are involved in a bust operation, they're all going to hang at the same time. But up to this point, you're going, where the hell's the damn monster? Who did it? And so you get up there, and it's really awesome. I mean, it's really quiet. They don't overdo it. They don't drag it out. They go up there, they read, they say one little thing, they knock out the things, and they all hang.
Yep.
Fade to white, I should say, not black. But then you hear he's alive, and then you see where Sean Bean's there, and then you kind of look at him and you're like, what the hell happened? Is there a switcheroony? Did they drug him and figure out a way to kind of make him live through it or something? And the answer is no. They hung his ass, whatever. They had put him in a hospital, or actually, I should say, let me back up here. They hung him. They got rid of him. But you see around his neck where he's hanged, and then you see where he's all cut up, and he freaks out and he just kind of moans, and he kills the guy with the fork in the eye and
Yeah.
escapes. And it's like the last
They,
minute or two of the show, and he
they
has
put
become the monster.
they put him. He's in a insane asylum.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an incredible ending. It
Yeah.
hits all the right notes. I have not been this pleased with an ending to a movie or a show in quite some time to it. And I tell you what, it left on a high note. It makes you go, okay, now he is. It's ironic, but everything that we talked about up to this point about Frankenstein and the bodies are still in play. So I'm really looking forward to season 2 with it. But yeah, it was just so freaking awesome to see Sean Bean go through all this. And then turn it to a Frankenstein type monster at the end, moaning like and running off, and he forks the guy in the eye and escapes, and he's a little stronger. It's I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. If you haven't
No.
seen this, guys, gals, go see it. It's binge worthy. And here's another thing too, Doctor. I was going to ask you about, because we talk about, is it worth binge watching? A lot of these shows that are on Netflix and everywhere else, if they're 8 episodes, 10, 12, 13, whatever, it seems like you run into where about two or three of them you really just don't need. They're just filler to draw it out. This is only 6 episodes, I believe, the first season.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, yeah. They call it a series basically over there. Normal shows will get like more than 6 episodes. Will get like 10 or 11, kind of like Doctor Who does.
Hmm.
But these are basically only meant for like a certain amount of time, so they allow them to have 6 episodes, and then they're allowed to come back. So this show is allowed to come back for another one, six. So the total is only 12 episodes. So
Yeah.
basically, it's like watching a Netflix show. It is a Netflix show because it is well actually it was made on Sky on BBC, but they moved it to this. There was talk about actually bringing in a third season because now that Netflix legally owns the rights to it, they could come back and make another one, and especially with Sean Bean's not doing Game of Thrones anymore. I think that's what really hindered this because this came out in 2015,
Hmm.
and in 2017 was the last season. This one ended finally.
Right. Well,
So it
the other
started in
thing too
December. Yeah.
is that not everybody's in a big rush to just pump them out. So they may have something in lines for it, but from what I understand, it did very well. It was really popular, and there's probably some things about the show overall that we may be missing that we just don't recognize that the British audience or the
Oh,
European audience may know.
well,
That being said, it's still fantastic. I mean,
well, especially for those who have never don't really know anything about Charles Dickens, he's in the show.
that's right. He is back.
I did not know this. I'm not a really big. Well, I know Charles A. Tale of Two Cities and all the other stuff, for that, but I never really knew personal information about him. There's a character journalist named Boz in here, who actually works for a newspaper company, and the newspaper company is a company that Charles Dickens worked for. So definitely, and then the guy who plays him, such a great character. So you'll see more of him in season 2.
Okay. Okay.
So
Well, let me ask you this as we close up here. I'm just getting ready to watch season two, and I'm really looking forward to it. Do you think season two is as good as season one?
I would say season 1's just a little bit more, but season 2 though, you get to see more of the supernatural part, which is really great.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
So you so
less of the
you'll see,
science and more of the spooky.
you will see more reoccurring characters.
That is extreme, sir. Too extreme. Any final thoughts before we close up tonight, Doctor?
Oh yeah, if you get syphilis, just go get yourself get hung, and you'll come back up as a new man.
That'll put some hair on your chest to make you strong. Hey, Sean Bean's
Uh,
fantastic. Everybody else is. Go watch this. Fantastic. Frankenstein Chronicles, season one. Awesome. I'd like to thank you, Doctor, for showing up. I'd like to thank everybody for listening, sharing, getting the word out as we grow and or continue our march to 1,000 subs, which we're getting really, really close to. So I appreciate all that, guys. Have fun, enjoy it. If you've seen it, let us know down there before. Let us know if there's something that you'd like us to take a look at and see if we want to cover it and give you our extreme opinion on it. For the Doctor, for myself, have a good night, and as always, stay extreme.
Cheers, guys.